Welcome to the Informed Simplicity Project, a place for students looking for the informed simplicity on the far side of complexity. This is your host, Jordan Harris, and today I have an incredible guest, Erigoni Vlass. Before we get into the interview, though, I wanted to say a few things. So, Erigoni came to my attention after I read this article, Sudden Gains and Sudden Losses in the Clients of a Supershrink, 10 Case Studies, by Brian Henson, Michael Lambert, and Erigoni Vlass. Erigoni, or Eri, as her clients call her, is, simply put, the best therapist we have on record. Her outcomes are incredible, and what's most illuminating is the percentage of her clients who have sudden gains. So a little bit of background. This article came out in 2015, and basically before that, Eri was at a conference where she ran into Mike Lambert. Mike Lambert is well known for developing the outcome questionnaire, which is a 45-item survey that you give clients that tracks their well-being over time. She approached Professor Lambert because she had an abnormal number of clients who were getting this weird flag on their account. They were being coded as blues, and she didn't know what that meant. So she asked him, and Professor Lambert said, well, let me look at your data, basically. And they started looking at the program, and they thought that maybe the program was broken because code blue is the code for someone who has a sudden gain. So what is a sudden gain? A sudden gain is when someone has a dramatic increase in their well-being. On the OQ45, to get a little technical, you want to see a 14-point jump, and that means someone has had reliable improvement. And Eri's clients regularly had 50-point jumps in their scores. And what was even more striking was that they often had these gains, these sudden gains, early in treatment, between session 1 or 2, session 2 and 3, and it just didn't make any sense. So Dr. Lambert and Brian Hansen then went on to do a study on Eri and her caseload, and what they found was remarkable. In fact, she was producing, somehow eliciting these incredible results from her clients. People regularly talk about her with fond memories, and over a 2-year period, when they followed up 2 years later, the gains that they had had from therapy had been maintained. This was shocking to me. You know, if you actually look at the numbers, she has 5 times more sudden gains than anybody we have on record. And of course, as a student of the field, I had to reach out to her. And she was such a delight to talk to. So, without further ado, Erigoni Vlass, the Supershrink. So I'm super excited to have you on. And before we sort of get into all the questions that I have,
Yes.
I would love for you just to give a brief introduction about yourself.
Oh, well, a simple person I am. I started off doing textile design, and then I went into teaching, and then I went into psychology. Actually started my degree at an American university in Greece, would you believe? They had a campus there. Laverne it was back then. I don't know whether it still exists. And but then I lost my son and my partner, both from cancer. So I returned to Australia and continued studying, and then finished off, completed my clinical masters. And yes, I'm been working ever since for many years. Love my work, and been involved in a lot of training, a lot of workshops, a lot of conferences, traveled to the UK to sort of, to see Dan Siegel, who I love. He's just amazing. Looks at that sort of energy, works on energy levels, just amazing. So yeah, no, I'm busy practice, very busy practice, my own practice. Yes. and I love what I do. I love
How
what I
long
do.
have you been practicing?
25 years in
25
yeah,
years.
yeah.
Wow. And
Well, I
have you
was, as I said, I had many lives.
Yeah.
I had many lives, but
And have you always done private practice, or have you done other stuff as well in the therapy world?
well, part of training was, working in hospitals and whatever's, but no, never sort of inclined to, go into the hospital setting. I think I had enough of hospitals with my son and my partner, and now I have my mum. So yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So
Yeah.
no, private practice.
Private practice. Okay.
Hmm.
Um, and so,
Referrals from GPs because we have Medicare here,
mhm,
and actually I was involved in the we had a pilot study to actually ascertain whether psychology would whether Medicare would benefit from psychology being introduced into Medicare because it was up until that this is going back now 15 years. And so I was involved in the pilot study, and it was only for clinical psychologists at that stage. And it was very successful. So then it became Medicare proper. We became included in Medicare. So I am very different to most clinicals in that I actually don't. I just sort of get the rebate. I bulk bill. I don't charge a gap, which I could, but I don't because I want to work with those people who would, normally would not be able to afford to attend.
wow.
Yeah,
Yeah. Which is so important, right? I mean, so often,
absolutely. That's why we have this
yeah,
Medicare. That's why we have Medicare. But
yeah,
anyway,
yeah.
some people,
So often in the States, therapists sort of graduate out of working with people who really need, with the people who need the most because they have the least resources.
yeah.
And it sounds like you've sort of done the opposite. You work with the people who don't have the resources but still have the need.
Yes, and a lot of doctors know that, and I get a lot of referrals from doctors, but I get a lot of referrals from the referred.
Yeah.
I get, please see my father, please see my daughter, please see my, whatever. Yeah, it's all my aunt, my cousin, my friend. Yeah. So yes, it's a revolving door here.
I can, yeah, I mean, it
Totally.
sounds like it. It sounds like, and you're in Australia.
I'm in Australia.
Yeah.
Mm.
So it's daytime there.
I'm in Sydney.
Sydney. Wow.
Yes.
The capital.
Yep.
Yeah.
Pretty well. Well,
No?
well, yeah. Well, yes. Well, we are. Canberra is. Canberra is where the where Sydney.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. Um, and how did you get into counseling? What made you want to become a psychologist?
Um, Actually, in Greece, I actually had my own school, and I had a lot of children come to me who were actually really, from troubled families, and I used to be called the good lady, kalikiria, the good lady. So I think, and then I had a friend of mine she was doing her masters, and so I think many variables, but I guess it was just one of those things where I just seemed to sort of move into that area. I don't know whether you're familiar with Myers Briggs. Myers Briggs, yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm an INFJ, yeah, INFJs, and INFJs apparently, if you read the text, they say that we would quite suited to clinical psychology. It's interesting. It specifically says that. So
Hmm.
interesting.
That is very interesting. I think
Yeah,
I
and they're only
fluctuate.
1% of
Yeah.
INFJs. Mm.
Yes. Yes. I fluctuate between an INFJ and an INTJ, I think. I'm not.
Mm-hmm.
I'm such a borderline on the.
Yes.
So, but yeah, it's a very rare type.
Yeah.
Man.
We have a lot of empathy, don't we? have a lot of empathy.
Yeah. Um, and what's your caseload like? Is it mostly individuals, couples, a mix?
I have all sorts,
All sorts.
all sorts. Yeah. I have individuals, I have a lot of mothers and daughters, or, mothers and sons. I do, yeah. I mean, as I said, I don't I don't advertise at all. I don't, yeah, but families just seem to be, they seem to sort of gravitate towards me, and so I do a lot of work with mothers and or fathers and their children. Yeah, and a lot of adolescents. I get a lot of adolescents working, sort of working with them. Hmm.
So a lot
Yeah.
of family work as well.
A lot of family work, yes.
Wow.
But as I said, individuals. And now with this COVID, we do have telehealth, but I have been doing both, but I've had people come face to face, really. I've only had maybe 1% of people who are actually doing the telehealth.
Wow.
Yeah. Because people know it's a very clean environment. People come in, they get, it's actually a house which has been sort of transformed into a practice. So people sort of feel really comfortable, and I don't have anyone else here, fortunately. I'm here on my own, so people know that there's no fear that they'll actually contract COVID here. So
there you go.
Yeah.
There you go. So let's sort of dive into the article. Like, can you tell the story? Because in the article, it sounds like it's a funny story, but it's told in a way that's very clinical. So can you talk about how you were talking to the authors, and you were like, I think the program's broken, or something, like you didn't understand why your numbers were so extreme.
Well, yeah, it's interesting that I actually had such, but I honestly believe that the feedback I get from people all the time is, I feel safe here. I feel very safe, and I feel very heard. And empathy is absolutely crucial, but we need to listen. It is so important to listen, very important. And listening is not only hearing, but it also getting that, looking at all the nonverbals, looking at just being highly, 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 highly sensitized to that person who's sitting in front of us. Really important.
Yeah. So you're always getting feedback from your clients, verbal and nonverbal.
Yes, and I do. I mean, I use the OQ. The OQ.
What made you decide to use the OQ?
Well, I actually saw Professor Lambert actually present at one of the clinical college conferences years ago, like probably going back 20 years now, and I was so impressed. So impressed. I was so impressed. I went straight up to him and I said, I really want to use this. I want to use this questionnaire, and I've been using it for many years now. Yeah.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. And they love it. Clients love it because they see their progress. They see where they actually their baseline. They have a baseline, so they see where they sort of how their mental state, at a particular when they first come, and then of course you see that rapid decline. It's like, oh, and men. I find that with men, that happens pretty well most of the time because men love a skills-based approach, So it's interesting, the approach that I use is, I'm not sort of, like, I don't have, sort of a rigid way of working, but I look at, I've been very much influenced by compassionate mind therapy, what's his name, the one in the UK, it'll come to me. uh, where we actually, it's actually sort of more for, shame-based um, sort of therapy, but I use it across the board because I've said to oh, what's his name? I see him so often at conferences, but anyway, and he actually he sort of looks at the historicals, because historicals are really important, but we're not Freud here, okay? We're not Freud. We don't go on, and we're not, what's his name? The actor, Woody Allen. We're not Woody Allen, where we sort of go on for therapy for years and years and years. It's very sort of succinct. So we look at historicals, we look at our key fears, we look at safety behaviours and the unintended consequences. So, of course, we're always going back to family, what we have learned as, from tiny tots, and then, of course, modelling. There's a lot of modelling happening. And, of course, that's all sort of, I work a lot with the amygdala, so we sort of talk a lot about the amygdala and fears, emotions, procedural memory is all part of that amygdala. And the alarm system, because the children love to sort of hear about, well, we're going to turn off that alarm. Yes, we turn off the alarm. So the thing is that, our fears, I work a lot with fears, because fears developed as a result of historicals, don't they? If we have growing up in environments where, maybe traumatic or chaotic, or, or even at school, you get bullying. So there are lots of situations where you get fears as a result of, school peer relationships. I find that a lot with adolescents. So you're getting your fears, and of course the way we manage our fears related to our, so we manage those fears using what we call safety behaviours. The thing is that those safety behaviours often are very, they're very maladaptive, of course. And then, of course, you get your unintended consequence of that. So then this is sort of CBT with compassion-focused therapy. So then we look at triggered events. So we're looking at our classic, CBT model. And then we have our triggered event, we have our emotions, we have a downward spiral, external threat, internal threat. So we sort of, when we actually activate the alarm system, we're in that fight flight, we're sort of, we're looking at threats. But that's when of course, our emotions are actually triggered off by our fears. We were talking about the triggered event, okay, so the emotions, and the emotions actually manifestation of fear, aren't they? Because if we actually have a fear activated in a particular situation, then of course we have an emotion. And of course then we react, with the emotion, then of course we go into that downward spiral because we've activated the fight-flight response. And the thing is that, in that fight-flight response, of course, we actually, constantly, it's all negative. It's all, the fear and the threat. And so the thing is, I train people to actually recognize and to identify the emotion that is surfacing, and then being able to intervene at that moment where the emotions are surfacing, calm themselves down, so that then they actually avoid going into the downward spiral. And I actually do a recording of that. So I do a type of hypnosis. I've sort of written everything down, so everything is sort of, so we actually, we consolidate with that recording, and they've got that on their phone, and they train themselves. They listen to that every night for at least 2 months.
Wow.
And the men love that. The men love it.
Wow.
and the women too, but the
Yeah.
men, because men are very skills based, aren't they?
Oh, yeah.
Unlike women who go round and round in circles, we sort of we go round and round in circles. But
So, I mean, I guess the question is, I have a few numbers from the article. From the actual article, you had 85 people in the sample, and something like 45 to 50% of them had these sudden gains. And
yeah.
is that in your understanding from the exercise, from listening to the recording? Is that from listening? How do you make sense of that?
Well, it is not just from the recording. It is actually that moment of epiphany. It's like, aha, okay. I get what is actually causing me to react and behave like this. Okay. And that's, once they have that understanding, then that is huge. That is huge.
Wow. And so people
Yeah.
often have those epiphanies in your office.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Yes. It's like, oh, yeah, the epiphany. And if you look at the research, and if you look at the, research and studies, or, when they talk about sudden gains, they more often than not, when I was sort of, when we were writing the paper and I was looking at, what up until now, up until then, what, how they sort of, how they explain these sudden gains, often they would talk about epiphanies. Yeah, it's like an aha moment. Oh, I get it. I understand why I've actually been behaving like this. Yeah. Because we've sort of, but usually in one session, I mean, it doesn't take me long to actually get to that point. That's the thing. It's one or two, the first or second session, it'll be like, yeah, because it's just, as I said, I think it's the listening. You listen, you hear, you do not actually let one detail go. You're completely there. And this is why, as therapists, we need to be accountable. We need to look after our own physical and mental health. We need to be alert all the time. We cannot actually bring outside issues into our work. We have to be there 150%.
I love it. I think that's so true. I think therapists have to be present. I want to come back to that, but I don't want to miss something that you just said. What's your intake process? Like, do you have an intake and then a first session and then a second session, or do you do an intake in one session and then you do something else? How do you?
Well, intake. Well, what is intake? The person comes in and they sort of they present, but then we sort of. It's not like I'm actually, getting. How when you sort of take like in a clinical sort of masters and things, we would take it. I sort of get what I need to get in that first session, like as in I get as much information about that person and what is happening for them and what they were. I don't know. In the first session, I actually start working.
And how long are your sessions? Are they 60 minutes?
Well,
90 minutes?
we're only paid 50 minutes, but I actually spend 60 minutes with people.
Okay, so you say 60 minutes.
Yeah.
And that goes back to one of the things that was so interesting about hearing about your work is oftentimes between session 1, which is your intake, and session 2, people have these epiphanies.
Yeah.
So when they come in for the second session, they've already had this.
That's it. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. Wow. And so in that first session, then you're also explaining to them, okay, this is why you're acting the way that you are. There's a fear there. Let's deal with the fear. Let's give you the skill to deal with this fear.
Yeah. And what is this fear? Is this fear irrational or is it rational? I guess they begin to understand when we are children, we actually develop fears, or when we're younger, we develop a fear. But the thing is that fear, is that a realistic fear? That's the thing. And when they understand that, this is completely irrational fear, then. But also, we also need to be looking like men can come and they come and they've got a burnout. It's really very important for us to actually ascertain whether a person is sleeping well, because sleep is huge. Like if you're getting someone who's actually sleeping 3 hours or 2 hours, or then of course that is going to impact profoundly on their mental state, and their diet, and their so it's, as I said, I'm also holistic. I mean, I will look at all of those things even in the first session. I'll get it in somewhere I'll actually, and
you were doing
so then
a
I
lot
get
in
them.
that first session.
I do a lot in the first sessions. I do
because you're getting their you're getting their story, you're intervening a little bit, you're giving them psychoeducation, especially
everything.
for nutrition and sleep. I mean, that's a full hour.
Oh, I do a lot. A lot. I do not waste any time.
You can't waste any time.
The thing is, I'm constantly getting new people coming in, so I can't waste time, and I have to sort of, this is the thing.
So you were also talking about how important it is to be present. How do you prepare yourself to be present for your clients? Do you have a routine? Do you have a ritual?
Yes, I do. I'm up at 5 every morning. I actually do aerobic exercise, jogging for about 15, 20 minutes. Then I will do a solid hour of yin yoga. Yin yoga is so important for immunity. And then I'll do some, weights, and then I actually have my main meal for breakfast.
Wow.
So that's all done by, I'm sort of getting ready. It takes me 5 minutes to get ready for work, and I'm 3 minutes away from work. So, it's like, and I'm at work at 9, and then, But now I'm at the hospital at 8. So, the routine sort of, it's earlier now.
And do you do anything else during the day? Like, I know for myself, I don't have caffeine in the morning.
Oh, I never drink.
It just throws me off.
Yeah.
So is there anything else that you do that?
Well, what I have for breakfast is I have steamed vegetables, and I have eggs, and I have fruit, and I have nuts, and whatever in the morning. And then I don't eat until I eat very, very little at night, because my sleep has to be optimal. And my sleep is, I'm in bed by 8:30. 8:30.
That's important for you in order to be alert the next day.
Absolutely. But the yoga is also essential. Exercise. And I love swimming because I live by the ocean. And at the moment it's a bit cool, but and as I said, situation at the moment with mum is
it's hard. So what is the yoga? I don't do any sort of yoga, but
yin yoga, yin, Y-I-N, is amazing, because yin yoga, how it differs from what most people sort of understand of yoga, is that you actually maintain the pose from at least 2 to 8 minutes. So you stay in the, but I've always sort of I've always done yoga, maybe not as much, but the last couple of years I've actually sort of been more, again, right into it. But it's, when you maintain, I also meditate. So I do the mindfulness meditation. So I've been doing that for 6 years. But I'm finding that the yin yoga actually incorporates the meditative sort of side, but it also the physical, and you're actually really strengthening the muscles. So it's amazing. And it actually strengthens your immune system, because you're working on that lymphatic system. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Draining lymph nodes. You're draining all those lymph nodes.
And
amazing.
How long is your whole yoga session?
An hour,
An hour.
1 hour,
Wow.
1 hour of yin yoga
So you
every
wake up,
morning.
you exercise, then you do an hour of yoga. So you have like a what? How long is it from when you wake up to you when you go into the office?
From 5 until 9, I start work normally. Now, of course, it's because I go to the hospital now, so it's yeah. I start at 11 now, but I'm at the hospital at 8, so I have to sort of do all that before 8.
So you're having like a so it's like a 3 hour like boot up process.
Yes, it is. Yes, 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 and that keeps me very alert. Very yes. My sleep is optimal. Like my sleep is so good, really.
Do you do
Yeah.
anything else for your sleep? Like do you keep your temperature at a certain level or do you shut all
Oh,
the
yeah, well,
blinds and
well, we have to. Oh, yeah, my room is very dark. My room is really dark, and you have to be really careful about not having too much bed clothing. The bed clothing needs to be, yeah, suitable for whatever time of the year. Yeah, that's a very good point, that one, because a lot of people, they get too hot at night, and if you get too hot at night, your sleep is actually going to be very compromised. Hmm. And I'm interested in Ayurveda, Ayurveda, all of those things, like, looking at body types and, yes, there are so many amazing other things in life as well as clinical psychology, like, and I sort of bring it in at times. It just depends on the client, it
Mhm.
just depends. Yes,
um so I had another question.
yes.
How do you know when a client is finished? How do you terminate?
Well, I look at the IQ, don't I?
Okay.
Yeah.
And if they've meet and if
And
they
the
are
thing is
below
that
the
sometimes,
cutoff.
well, the thing is, they actually, I often find that they return to the normal range, and then they say, but there's another issue that I'd like to work on. They don't want to leave. It's sort of
Yeah.
like, oh, I think you're okay now. No, 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 no. There's another issue I want to work on. So I said, well, yeah, okay. All right, we work on the other issue. So,
Yeah. Wow. So there you go. And then
yeah,
after you
you
resolve that
can't.
second issue, do you sort of space them out? Like, do you say, "Well, I'll see you in 2 weeks. I'll see you in a
Yeah,
month," or
yeah,
do you?
yes, I do. I do. I do.
Yeah.
Yes. Then yes, it'll be yeah, once a month. And then the thing is that often what happens is that people will come and they'll have, they'll sort of they'll they'll be the issue that they've sort of presented with has just sort of resolved, and then they a year later or 2 years later or 10 years later they come back again, and it's like, I've got this other issue. Yeah. So yeah, they're always, I often get, very often get people come back again for another reason, something completely different, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you make so in the article, something else that was really fascinating was
Yeah.
you had like a 7% rate of people who got worse, which is really low. Who had no change or got worse. So how do you make sense in general of people who, even
Ah,
for someone as talented as yourself, you
yes.
don't help everybody, right?
Yeah, no, 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 no. It depends on, the thing is that um, financial situation, or they're trapped in a marriage that they can't get out of. A woman who actually is entrapped in a marriage, there's no way that you can actually, that she can leave that marriage, because that is, yes, she's got no way out. This is the thing, when there's a real sense of entrapment, and if you've got, if you've got a very, very severe trauma, like a trauma that, yeah, very, sometimes it takes longer, or um, you might actually get that person sort of going through, there might be another sort of huge trigger or trauma, and then they sort of regress again. So yeah, 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 those sort of situations are, yeah, complex. They're very, very complex. Yes, yes. But even those people, I still feel that, we need to be, again, we need to be very present for them. We need to be. We still need to. to support them in some way. Yeah. Mm.
And so, what percentage of your caseload would you say is long term?
Oh, no, I have very, very few people long
Over long
term.
term.
Very, very. Oh.
Most
Yeah,
of your
no.
clients come for what? For how many sessions?
Well, with Medicare, we get 6, and then we get another 4. But I work as quickly as I can, so that by that 6th session, more often than not, they're gone. Yeah. Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, often just with 3 or 4 sessions, yeah, they're gone.
Yeah.
Mm.
Um,
I don't foster dependency. Yeah.
mm-mm.
Yeah,
No.
no.
Yeah, you fix them up and send them back out.
Well, yes, yeah. You have to be really careful about the way you actually sort of, that, I mean, that they themselves, it's like, particularly, as I said, men, they just think, oh, gee whiz, yeah, I'm okay now. I can move on. So yeah, I understand what's going on, and yeah, so interesting, the issues that come up. You get such varied issues, like such a variety. They're just, yeah, so different. People will pop up with, yeah, it's like, oh, you know, wow, that's something that I've not heard of before. I mean, you think you've heard everything, but then, yeah,
Yes.
you never
No,
hear everything.
you never
No,
hear everything. There's always
no.
something else that happens. Oh my gosh. Do you um so since the article came out, has
Yes.
anything changed for you?
No.
No,
I mean,
still the same. Yeah.
well, look, I keep sort of, I keep adding to myself, and then I add to my, like I think that the gut is huge. Gut. The gut is actually our first brain. We need to understand that. So if we don't actually, if we have, if we don't have good gut health, then we're not going to actually have good mental health. It's an absolute fact. So I sort of, as I said, I am continually sort of researching and learning, and yeah, so it's interesting. I had a message from this guy who came probably 6 months ago, and he flew in, flew out. He was like two sessions off he went, and then he messaged me and wanted another session, and he said, I got that book that you told me about, because he had Crohn's. And I said to him, I told him about the gut and how important it is for him, gut health and diet and da da da. And he said that really, really helped. So, as I said, we have to, if we listen to the client, and if we ask the right questions, or we sort of, we need to hear what they're saying to us, and then we need to, we cannot lose any opportunity to actually to explore.
So there you go. Um, I have a question. This is sort of weird. Do you have lots of gifts from your clients?
I don't encourage that.
You don't encourage that?
I don't encourage it. No.
No. So
The gift for me is the gift. Well, they. I mean, I guess at Christmas, people, but not. No. Just very small things. Because remember, my clients are not. They're not. They're. I think that they just. Well, the gift they give me is that they actually, they sort of. They change. That's the gift, and they understand that, I think. And then,
but yeah. They're not sending you Christmas cards or.
Oh, yeah, I get Christmas cards and things like that. Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah, Christmas. Yes, yes,
yeah,
definitely. Yeah.
and like
Yeah. Or
small.
I always get a text, thank you for, the help, and absolutely. Yes. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. Hmm. Um. Wow. What advice would you have for the rest of us, people who want to emulate your success?
I think it's absolute love for what we do. We need to love what we do. We need to respect and the people that come to us, and understand that it's a privilege to actually work with every person who actually walks in our door.
Mhm.
It's a privilege.
That's so true. That's so true.
It is absolutely. That's why I'm grateful every day for being able to actually to um, to help these people, yeah, in whatever way I can. But sometimes, we can't help people, and I tell them that it's very rare. But there are times when I say, no, I just can't. There's nothing I can do here. Yeah, someone who is drug addicted, and I say to them, look, sorry, but we've actually, we've sort of, I've tried, we've tried whatever way, but he's not working. So best that we don't continue. So yeah, I've said, yeah, yeah, I've been in that situation.
Um, and are there any books that you would recommend, just sort of basic books for people who want to improve, therapists who want to read something that would be really stimulating, maybe?
Um, well, I mean, I have a myriad of books. I have so many, so many, so many books. Um, I'm trying to think about that professor in the UK. Oh my gosh,
The
I
compassion mind training
yeah.
person.
He's a compassion. Yeah, he's compassion focused therapy. Oh, he's in the UK.
Let's see if I can find him. Gilbert?
Gilbert, that's it.
Paul
Yes,
Gilbert.
yeah, yeah. Paul Gilbert. He's amazing. I don't know whether you have heard a lot about him in the US, but I've done so many workshops with him, and yeah, and conferences I was going to do this year, but
Yeah,
everything has been cancelled.
so canceled.
No, it's just really hard,
It is
really
hard.
hard.
It is so
Yeah,
hard.
yeah. Paul Gilbert. Paul Gilbert. Also, there's a wonderful book on the gut. I'm just wondering whether I've got it here. Oh yes, Julia Elders. Julia Enders. Yes, she actually has got a fantastic. Have you heard of her?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she works. Yeah, she's got this very, very humorous book on the gut, but it's
This is
fantastic.
really,
Like
really
it
good.
really is. It's good. Yeah. So gut health. What else? Oh dear. So I said there's books on sleep. There's books on.
Yeah, if you could
But as
recommend
far as,
like sleep.
yeah, I've got a really good book at home on sleep, but I don't have it here with me. Um, yeah, no, but there are there's some really good books out there on sleep. Maybe I'll email to you the book that I've got on sleep. Yes.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Sleep, and as I said, nutrition, really important. There are certain um, there are different body types, and as I said, it's good to actually also sometimes introduce those sort of things into a session as well, because
Yeah.
it's sort of, yeah.
Yeah. Um, what do you think is on the edge of the field? What's on the frontier? What should we be looking at?
What we should be is interesting. The last clinical college that I attended was last year, and I was very finally, I thought, finally they're getting it. There's this, I don't know who it was that was presenting, but anyway, he kept on saying, look, we haven't made any progress with this CBT, we still haven't actually sort of, we're not getting the results that we actually should be getting. In the last 50 years, there's been, no improvement with this CBT. But then he said, but now what we're looking at, with PTSD, they're using this treatment protocol and and still, we're sort of getting the same results and And then he said, but now we're looking at outside the circle. And I said, yes, finally. We need to look outside the circle. We have to, as I said, a man might come and he's really, really depressed. And the thing is, we need to be looking at, is he sleeping? Is he drinking? What is he eating? Is he exercising? Is he, what is it? So, yeah, they're the things that we just can't just go into CBT. That is just, it's nonsensical, really, to me.
Yeah. So looking not just
so
at
we need
psychology,
so yeah
but
that's
also
this is why what I'm saying is that what we need to actually understand here is every therapist should look outside the circle, and this is what I actually said in the paper I mentioned. We have to sort of be creative. We have to be creative in the way that we work. We cannot be rigid.
So that means like looking at sleep, looking at hygiene, looking at what's the word? Nutrition, not just psychology.
Well, that's right. And the thing is that, we need to identify why is a person, often people who are depressed, well, they are, because they're trapped, okay? And it might be that they're actually in the wrong job. So we have to do, okay, let's do a questionnaire. Let's see your personality type. Let's actually sort of see, what would suit you here. Okay, so do you see, there are so many things that we can do. We need to have many tools in our little sort of tool bag, though. We need many tools. And these tools, we sort of, we bring them in, we introduce them where we actually sort of, where we think that it's appropriate. But that's why listening to the person, picking up, just not everything, we have to be absolutely intently focused on that person.
Yeah. Wow. Who do you feel like have been some of your major teachers in that, right? Like that's such a skill that not everyone has. I think we're all born with it. We're all born with that ability to listen and to be present, but along the way we lose it and have to relearn it.
Well, we're observing, we're hearing, we're whatever, but we're also thinking, okay, okay, what, where can we go with that, or what can I go with that, or have you seen Dan Siegel?
Yeah.
Isn't he amazing? Energy, the energy levels. Okay, it's actually because a person comes in and when they're depressed and they're anxious, their energy levels are sort of depleted, aren't they? And so the thing is that what we need to actually, he talks about that plane of possibility. I mean, he's just profound, that man. I just think he's amazing. I mean, I just think he's God's gift, really. He is. He's done so much amazing work, really he has. And when he looks at that plane of possibility and, if you get someone who's traumatized, because I get people with post-traumatic stress, severe trauma. And of course, when you actually sort of are able to work on their energy, their energy levels, but also, as I said, energy also comes from lack of sleep or the wrong nutrition, or so again, so we're looking not only at the trauma, so being able to sort of to actually to work on the exposure work, desensitization, understand, that sort of, but also looking at the other variables, like as in, um, yeah, as I said, we're a whole person, mind, body. We have to look at the body as well as the mind. I don't know whether I've made myself clear there, but yeah.
I mean, I think it's so true, right? You have to look at not just the psychology, but also like what is going on outside the circle. Are they sleeping? Are they eating? Are they taking care of themselves? Because if they're not, then their energy levels are going to be low.
Exactly. And when it's interesting, I had a man come just a couple of weeks ago, and he was so depressed. This man was so depressed. Couldn't find a job. He wasn't able to find a job. And then it was probably, he's been looking for a year now, and he's always an accountant, and he was always, very sort of, he was always employed. Anyway, he was stuck, absolutely stuck. So he was drinking at night. I said, got to let go of the drinking, got to actually optimize sleep, got to start exercising. I said, if you actually optimize your energy levels, then of course you will attract, because Siegel talks about if our energy is optimal, then of course we're going to actually attract, aren't we? It's, nature of energetic fields.
Right.
So he did that, and the next session he came back and he said, you know what, I found a job.
There you go.
We got a job.
I think what's fascinating about what you're talking about is it sounds like your clients follow your advice. Whenever I've given clients advice in the past, they don't do it. I'm like, you should need to, and they go, okay, but then they don't follow through.
They do. They do.
Wow.
They absolutely do.
How do you get them to do all the homework? What's your magic recipe?
They trust me.
They trust you. Yeah.
It's huge.
It is. I mean, in some ways, I think it's the thing. I don't know if you've heard of Stephen Porges.
Yes, I have. Yes, I was supposed to do a workshop with him, but it was actually rescheduled. So yeah. I've seen him. I saw him in London at a conference.
Wow. Yeah, I've only seen him like on tapes and stuff, and he's my Dan Siegel, and I'm like, and he's about safety and trust. Like, once you have that,
safety. That's it.
That's the thing.
I know.
And so your clients really trust you.
Yes.
Because you're really present for them.
Yes, exactly.
And how often does it really happen? How often do we have someone who's really present to us? Not that often.
No, that's right.
So that's such a gift to give people. Your full presence.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that creates these epiphanies for them. Yeah. And then they go, okay, I can go back to my life. I can go and I can manage.
Yes. Yes.
That's wonderful.
That's the key.
That's the key. Yeah. Man. I feel like we should end on that. That's such a moment. I feel like we should end on that.
I think so.
Yes. Well, look.
Lovely talking to you anyway.
It's been so great.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much.
Okay.
The Supershrink.